Welcome to Thanks for Visiting, a podcast that's part conversation, part time capsule. I'm your podcast host, Lex. In these minutes and moments, I'm sitting down with people I deeply respect and admire to explore life, the human experience, and the creative spirit. Together, we're creating our visitor records, snapshots of our existence and contributions while we're visiting here on planet Earth. Let's help each other navigate this wild human adventure called life. I'm speaking today with Kati Lightholder.
My name is Kati Lightholder, and I'm an independent filmmaker, painter, and organizer. I'm also passionate about how food can positively affect our health. That is me in a nutshell, I think.
And I'm a composer. I like to think of the word composer because I like to draw different elements in together into a unit, and elements that you might not think go together, whether that's different groups of people, like in a podcast environment, like draw these different ideas together within music, draw these different instruments together, and same with thoughts. I enjoy exploring the human experience. I'm so glad that we've made time for this. Thank you for setting it up.
No, thank you for having the idea.
So for a little context, Kati, I normally have loads of deep soul talks. We've just been talking about, like, let's just record them. There's something really special to me about audio capturing someone's voice and these just conversations about life and what it means to be human. And yeah, so you came with an idea.
I did. I was like, next time we talk, I want to tell you about all of my 2025 New Year's resolutions, and I want to hear yours. And then I was like, we should just record that. Because we're going to jump all over the place to interesting topics, etc. Let's just record it. And we're going to have to record it soon because I'm not going to be able to hold these in too long. So like you said, just dive in. Just do it.
Just hit record. I like this idea of, just hit record.
Did you hit record?
I did hit record. Did you hit record?
Yes, I did. Okay. Whew.
I'm good to check. And it's January 3rd, 2025. So that is why we are thinking on these things.
That's important. Now, let me start with a question for you, if you don't mind. Do you like to make resolutions? Do you call them something different? What is your feeling on that?
It's a good question. I like the fresh start idea of a new year, but I'm always kind of goal setting. And that's, I think, something I've done for a while. My mom was very much into reading, I don't even want to call them self-help, but betterment tools. And I remember, I think when I was probably in college, she was saying the people who write down their goals, statistics show that they're more likely to achieve them. And for me, with my brain and having just kind of a information highway going on often, I need to focus and kind of filter, which is something that word will become important later. But yeah, I think to have it written down and see it on a page is really important to me. So for resolutions, it's something that I would, it's just a fresh start with a new year, maybe turning a chapter. What's different for me about ongoing goal setting that might be monthly, I tend to do monthly goal setting, or maybe 1 month, 6 month, year, kind of look at it that big picture. And I can do that within the middle of the year, be okay, from June 2025 to June 2026, let's recalibrate. I think there's a lot of recalibration of my goals. But what I do appreciate about January goal setting that's different is just that word resolution. I'm oh, okay, resolution, to resolve what do I want to resolve in life or in relationships. I'm a very word person.
I never even thought of the word resolution as resolve. You blow my mind every time we talk, so continue.
It's actually interesting that we call it that at the beginning of the year, because I think of resolution as like an end. Like, yeah, close it up. But I do like to think of like, oh, what's internally happening in my mind, in my body, in my world that I want more resolution on. If that's like anxiety, I want to resolve some of this relationship I have with anxiety, or maybe even thinking about a relationship in your life where you're like, oh, it's a bit clunky right now, or like, how can I work on like a little bit of resolution with me or this person? Or if you can't get resolution with the person, how can you get that on your own? So to me, that's how it's different than like ongoing goal setting.
Totally. And the more I meet people in this world, the more I realize that like even setting resolutions is kind of an unpopular opinion. I would venture to say probably the majority don't. And I guess it's because they feel like a failure if they don't meet them. But for me, I'm like, if I don't have something to aim at, then I'm wandering. So I love them, and I don't consider myself better than anybody else because I love them. Because you'll see, if we get through all these, I have a zillion, and that's not good. Like, it's not good to have as many resolutions as I have. And I've never had this many before, ever. So before we started recording, I was categorizing because I'm like, there's just too many. But yeah, I like them. I think I like setting goals. And if I don't meet them, I don't feel badly about them, because I didn't meet them because either I didn't want to. Like, it's all just about what I want, you know? I'm the protagonist of my own story, so I'm the one directing things. If I want to work out at 9 a.m. every morning and I don't do it, it's because I would prefer to sleep or whatever. That's not one of mine, by the way, but if it was. So I think people get down on themselves. They're too hard on themselves, and that's maybe why they don't like them, but that's okay.
Yeah, I like that perspective, because I do think sometimes it can feel like putting too much pressure, and people respond differently to pressure, right? I think there's a certain amount of it that I thrive in. I'm like, okay. And then some of it, I'm just like, all right, no, too much pressure will break. But I like what you said, that when you don't accomplish it, you don't beat yourself up on it. If you keep writing down, like, I want to go to the gym X amount of time, and you keep not doing it, it's fine. You probably just actually don't want to do that. I keep writing down, I want to learn Italian, and I put it on the list again, but it's like, it's fine. It just wasn't that much of a priority among other things. That's fine. Don't attach too much judgment to it. Just look at the things maybe that you did prioritize, the things that you did mark off, and is that an indicator for where you really are focused right now?
I couldn't agree more. So, okay, well, now that we know where each other stands on the topic, I guess I could share one, then you could share one. Do you like that?
Yeah.
So I have these little cards, and these are the categories. So there's finances, fitness, health, self-development, spiritual, career, relationships/family, and emotional. And so I was like, oh, those are good categories. Let me throw those in a Word doc and try to put my resolutions into those categories and see where we land. And it really did help. And I got it all on one page. So that's,
wow.
That's ridiculous. This should be, if I was recommending somebody make resolutions, I'd be like 4 to 5. And here I am with like 30. So fitness is my first one just on my list. It doesn't mean it's the most important to me. And I have 3 under fitness. One is to move every day. That's not something that'll be too hard. We tend to go for walks every day, even if it's just like a 5-minute walk outside. Go to Zumba once a week. I used to do Zumba and like aerobics type classes all the time. I used to teach them back in the day, and I stopped doing it. And I just started up in the past few months and realized that sweating that much and like, kind of jumping around is so good for your lymphatic system, and it does things you don't even know that are beneficial. So Zumba once a week. I feel like once a week is more than enough for that for me. And then I want to do A workout routine that's more like weights or just body weight, but like strengthening once a week.
Yeah.
So I'm moving every day. I'm doing 2 workouts a week. That to me is a success.
I love that. Mine's continuing the bar classes. They've been just so good for my mental. And I'll give a little context when I say bar. A ballet bar is where these exercises occur, and it's a lot of like strengthening and lengthening. It's very much based on like, the movements or maybe some warm-ups that ballet dancers would use. I have always been like a runner, and the sports I did were very much around running and sprinting. And that was always really good for my mental. But as we get older, you start thinking about your bones and ligaments. When I was dealing with adrenal issues, my functional medicine doctor was encouraging me to not run nearly as much because it can put you kind of mimic that fight and flight. If you're running 5 miles, your body's like, are we running from danger now? You've been running a while. And so I backed off that. At one point I was running 7 miles several times a week. For me, it was not healthy because of coinciding with the adrenal fatigue that I was dealing with. So I wanted to do more strength stuff. And it's been really good for my mind where I can't think about a whole lot more than like counting the reps. But I also did take a jog the other day and realized, oh my gosh, I have not run in so long that I'm winded. So I need to add some cardio. So I'd like to run maybe at least once a week for the sake of my lung capacity for singing and my heart, just for some cardio.
I love that.
Do you want to share another one?
I would love to. So the next category on my Word document is health. And I have 6 bullet points underneath it. So this one's kind of funny, but take the first bite of my breakfast before 9 a.m. I'm so lucky that I get to work from home, and sometimes I just jump right into work before eating, and then I'm like, oh no, it's 12 o'clock. Then I eat my first meal, then I'm screwed up and like too hungry at points in the day when like I shouldn't be. And the whole goal of the diet I'm doing, which is a whole nother podcast or episode, and my whole deal with food is to keep my blood sugar as balanced as possible at all times. Like I never want my blood sugar to like spike and drop. I want to keep it as neutral as possible. So take my first bite of breakfast before 9 a.m. I also am doing a low FODMAP diet currently, which is not a long-term diet. It's something you do until you figure out which of the FODMAPs you're sensitive to. And my goal is to determine which FODMAPs I'm sensitive to so that I can add in more food. Another goal is to eat 3 meals a day because I just kept eating 2, and I think 3 would be better. I do need to figure out a balance there because my meals are feeling pretty heavy, and I think I need to lighten some of them up. I want to take fewer supplements. I have a deep respect for both traditional medicine and naturopathic medicine. I see both. I get them to, they don't call each other, but I try to get them to work together and through me. But I'm taking a lot of supplements.
It can happen. It's easy to do, actually.
So easy. Yeah. I'm feeling really good. So it's one of those things where I'm like, I wonder if I could try taking some of them every other day. We'll see. So that's a goal. Take fewer supplements. I also would love to save the money because supplements are not cheap. Mm-hmm. I want to go to the doctor less.
I like these. This is interesting because some people will need to be on the other side of the spectrum with it, right?
Yes. I don't think I'm normal in that regard. So I would love to go to the doctor less. Yes. And then last on my health list is I want to try 2 new meats that I've never tried before. And one is still to be determined, and the other one is pate.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, last year I tried sardines. Thank you, Lex, for introducing me to sardines. They're super tolerable.
Yeah, I love them. They're not, you just get boneless. Don't get the little head on
skinless,
it.
Yes.
If you're sensitive, a little sensitive, tender heart, just make sure they don't look like fish.
Exactly. And they, like I said, like they're so tolerable. Do I think they taste great? No, I don't. But they're so good because they're lower in all the heavy metals that you
Mercury.
could be aware of for fish. Again, another episode. But yeah, those are mine. How about
Yeah.
you? Do you have any in the health category?
So health, I think for me, a lot of it comes back to that adrenal health maintenance. I feel like I'm in a good place. Let's continue to maintain that, which feels good because I think for a while it's been like, I have to fix. So I think I'm finally into a bit more of that maintenance phase. But a big health one is just like stress, because that's such a big thing affecting my health. So I think a lot of it is paying attention to like my breath, and if I'm holding it, and if there's anxiety coming up, and how can I shift that? I love the physics principle that energy is neither created nor destroyed. So if I feel this like internal this energy, like, okay, how do I shift it? I'm not going to destroy it. How do I change it? And so that's why I started running, or like that's what running was for me, of a level of internal anxiety and like a buzzing. And running was a way for me to like take that energy current and shift it, kind of transform it.
I'm like writing this down.
Yeah.
I always find myself taking notes when I'm talking to you. Energy is neither what?
Created nor destroyed.
Created.
And
I
I'm not
had
a
the nor destroyed
physicist.
part.
The idea that the world, however we got here, all the energy, it can't be created or destroyed. It shifts or transforms. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say this morning, I felt strongly in my soul that I needed to text this person that didn't know that I was having a hard time with a decision they had made. And as I went to text the person, I was like getting that like shaky feeling, and just like all these feelings were coming up. And I was standing at my bedroom window, and I was just like, drop my arms down, and I closed my eyes, and I was like, take a breath, feel your feelings. These feelings are valid. You're allowed to have these horrible feelings, and you're allowed to feel them. And I was just trying to find a way to feel better with those bad feelings. And I think what I was trying to do was shift that energy. So it's just crazy that you just mentioned that, because I just felt a very strong amount of energy earlier today. I don't think I succeeded necessarily, but I think I made, I don't know, some sort of progress.
For me, it's just always been helpful of like getting back to the goal of health. How do I shift my energy? Another thing on this note, I guess this is like emotional health. I was listening to Mel Robbins' podcast where she talks about the let them theory. There's a very beautiful and raw conversation between mother and daughter, and Mel was saying, I feel like you were just mad at me all the time in high school. And she was like, I kind of visually showed you that, like I would pout and like walk around irritated because that's the only way you gave me attention. And I was like, oh. And so that's an energy I'd like to shift. Instead of maybe visually showing like I'm stressed or I'm irritated or you said something that hurt my feelings and I'm going to make you know through my body language. No, I'd like to rise above that. And so one of the goals that I wrote, I'm trying to think of a better way to say it, but it's like to walk in joy and to instead just advocate for what I need. And like, instead of being like, yeah, I'm still angry, like actually ask myself the hard questions of like, what is the need that I'm trying to get met? And can I get it met in a healthier way? If it's because I think they won't take my ask seriously unless they can tell I'm pissed still. It's like, no, let's rise above. We're grown now. We have different tools than I did when I was younger. How can I actually verbalize my need more? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm at this point in my life, basically middle-aged, and still trying to figure out what is the need I'm trying to get met here?
I have to take a tangent, which I think are some of our best things, because something you said relates to something you texted me yesterday. And this is about internal dialogue thinkers versus people that don't. And I would have always thought I was somebody that definitely had the internal dialogue. But now with this definition that you sent me, there's more subcategories than I thought. I promise this will connect. Stick with me here.
No, you're good.
So when you were just saying you want to figure out, use your words, communicate like an adult, etc., there's a category in here of non-internal dialogue thinkers that think more abstract or visually. They might think in pictures, concepts, or feelings rather than words. And while I do think I definitely have an internal dialogue in my head, I also fall into this category because sometimes I'm just feeling something and I don't know how to explain it. And I think this is really just worth considering that we might be a fusion of a couple of these categories.
Yeah.
And I haven't dove into it yet, but I think it's going to be something interesting to look into this year about how do we communicate our feelings in a way that actually captures the essence, because I think that's one of the most challenging things to do. Like, I'm married. We've been married for 20 years. And when I'm trying to communicate something to him, I don't always do it well. But if I had used other words, it would have changed the whole dynamic of the conversation. So, okay, that was a tangent about, let's have another episode about internal dialogue and all the subcategories that exist there.
I would love to. And I will say I've heard it's a spectrum. But yeah, I would love to talk about that more.
Sorry, please keep going.
Well, that was one of my health moving into emotional. So if you wanted to share one of yours, no pressure.
You might laugh, but my emotional one is blank.
Oh.
Isn't that weird for me specifically?
You've arrived.
I'm here. I am whole. No, I just need to think about it. I didn't have any that fit into that category.
Yeah. Don't worry, I have more than enough. That fit in that category.
I'm going to take all of yours and put them into mine.
Yeah. Do you want to share a different one?
Yes. How about the spiritual one? Because this could be controversial and people could stop listening as soon as we mention that word. So I want to preface this by saying that my faith is unique, and I don't like being put into a box. But as soon as I say a certain set of words, I know that many people put me into a box, and that's their prerogative. So there's a category of faith that I fall into, but it's not one that I think the PR for that faith is working well for them. And I don't think that the things that come to mind when people hear about that faith at all fit me. So the way I describe my faith, I try to do it with very specific words, and I'll see if I can do that in an articulate way right now. Sure. So my faith is in Jesus. All right, did you put me in a box? Are you hanging up on this podcast right now? Hear me out. If you look at who he really was historically and what he stood for, I bet you would agree with some of the things that he's into. So he was an activist. He called people on their shit. He called out hypocrites. He was all about loving each other. My new little sign off on my art is heart equals peace, because I really think that if we just love, that is so simple. What I'm trying to say is I am living in a Candyland world if I think it's that simple, but love equals peace. Sure. I think Jesus would be all about love equals peace. So my faith is in Jesus and everything he stands for. And my goal is to become more like him. So my spiritual goal for the year is to determine in which ways I want to become more like Jesus. I think I'll probably end up focusing just on the love and non-judgmental part of his being. I think if he was here today, and he would probably be very sickened by the people that call themselves his followers. The fact that Christianity is associated with hating on people that are different from them is outrageous.
Yep.
it's the opposite of what I stand for, and I am always very hesitant to say the term Christian because of that. I tend to usually follow it up with, and we have the biggest PR problem out of any company, business, or
It's true.
faith in the world.
I know, I think sometimes I say like Jesus follower, but then I feel like I've just got transported to the 70s.
I know. You know, there was a real turning point for me when I, like, somehow the PR for Jesus himself changed in my head, and I don't even know when this was. No, like, he was a radical. He was a rebel. He was an activist. He fought for what was right, and his whole thing was about love and no judgment. We have perverted that so horribly. Anyway, that's what I want to do. My spiritual goal is to become more like him. I want to be radical. I want to be a rebel. I want to be loving and not have judgment. That's my spiritual goal.
Well, and I think if people who claim that faith would all have that as a goal, we would probably have a little less of a PR issue. I don't know why that's not more of the goal, but I always like that he had the hardest time with the religious black and white thinking, right? With the Pharisees. Anyway.
Did you have a spiritual goal?
I like this question because, okay, what does this kind of mean for people who might not have a particular like label for their beliefs? And if it helps people, a spiritual goal serves as a foundation for your spirituality. So that's like the actions that guide you, your decision making, and like how you live your life. I like this idea of figuring out your values, where you look at a values list, which you can find online. Brene Brown has a really good one that you can find online. And they encourage you to try to whittle it down to 2. So like you can circle everything on the list that like really pops out. But then what I did was be like, okay, well, kindness is part of love. So I'm still going to go with love. And responsibility is part of this other value. And so I tried to get it down to 2, and mine were love and freedom. And they balance each other. So with those values, I like this concept to define success by, did I adhere to my values? Instead of being like, oh, today wasn't successful because I actually didn't work out today or go to my bar class. It can be really easy to be like, oh, today wasn't that successful. I felt a little much like the other days. Did you adhere to your values? Success being, did I adhere to my values? Did I act in love? Did I act like within my value of freedom? And freedom for me can be like emotional freedom, like financial freedom, not spending more than I'm bringing in. Or maybe did I save? Did I pay a bill on time? Did I pay off some debt? Did I save? We gotta like be able to chalk up some little wins for ourselves, right? Like on the note of resolutions, it can be like this big, like I'm gonna revamp, new year, new me. It's like, if that language helps you, but for me, it's like at my core, I'm still the same. How can I grow? And one of the things is like, to your earlier point, maybe people don't even do resolutions because it just feels like it's setting them up for failure. So if I could really simplify any goal, it's maybe figure out what your values are and then asking yourself, did I adhere to those today? And I just think that's so cool.
I'm a huge fan of the values. And I can't remember what my second one is, but my first value is understanding. I want to understand everyone, everything. If I could learn every subject, I would. I don't know. It's like kind of strange, but
that is very you. I love that for you. And it goes also with your spiritual goal, right? To love. I think one of the ways we love people or show love is to show understanding, or that we're trying to understand.
Dang, maybe that's my second one. Maybe love is my second one. Thank you. Wow. Thank you. And love and freedom for you, like when you say that, like I can almost just like see the words like written across your being. It's like so perfect for what you stand for and what you emanate. I love that.
I'm like, don't cage me in, but also I want love. Snuggle me.
Snuggle me, but not
Snuggle
too hard.
me.
Sorry.
No, it's so funny. That is me though. I'm like, I want to travel, but I also like to nest.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. values. I really encourage people to like look into that because that was really one of the best things that I learned.
I agree. And that's a great point that if people don't like resolutions, like at least know what you stand for. Because isn't there a saying, if you stand for nothing,
You'll fall for anything.
you'll fall. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to get it wrong.
Yeah. And I liked hearing your values. It makes me want to understand other people's values because it really sheds a light into how someone might move in the world.
And I love how directly that pairs with spiritual goals. Because if you don't consider yourself a spiritual person, that's totally your prerogative. And if you don't have any values, that's something I think you're probably going to want to think about, because I think everybody wants that. They want to stand for something. Do you want another one?
Yeah, let's get another.
This one is short, but I'm excited about it. It's relationships, and I have one. And it is invest in friendships, old and new.
Oh, I like that.
So we had COVID. Everybody was sticking by themselves or in their small little groups. And then after COVID, my little group, me and my husband, he was dealing with, and still is a little bit, a chronic illness that we couldn't figure out. It's at times like really immobilizing. We didn't hang out with friends. We didn't have people over. We didn't go anywhere. We were just trying to get by through the day, and we were trying to research and figure out what was wrong with him. We were going to insane numbers of doctor's appointments, doing just wacky things to try to figure out what's wrong with him, cleaning our house from mold. All that to say, like, it seems like we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel for him. And I miss my friends. So I just recently texted a friend of mine who's part of a couple that, the four of us all get along. And I said, what if we scheduled a quarterly hangout now at the beginning of the year? We can always change the dates later. She was like, I love it. Threw out some dates. We got them on the calendar. And now we've got 4 hangouts already scheduled, and we won't have to think too hard about it. So I'm excited about that. And then just in the neighborhood that I live in, there's some new people that are kind of around our age that we haven't met, and just all of a sudden they all seem to be there. And we're like, did you move in during COVID? Like, how did this happen? So I kind of just want to get involved with some neighbors and have some friends super close by, which we've always had very nice neighbors. We were never close in age to any of them. So we're going to consider that. And those are my relationship goals.
Oh, I like that. I definitely feel the need for more relationship, for more like social. When I've seen like the different areas of your health, which basically match up with what you're talking about, the categories you've made. The social one is the one that I've been like, I need more of that because I am more introverted, or maybe even ambivert at times, but working from home, I am craving more social time. When you're mentioning cultivating relationships old and new, I really like letter writing and like little postcards and stuff like that. So one of my goals is to like even just invest a little extra encouragement things to the people that have been just massive supports to me, especially in the last couple years, such as yourself. And it's just, I want to bring back the lost art of letter writing. I love it so much, and I love when I get a letter in the mail, so maybe something like that.
I love that. That is so fun.
Thanks. It's just something I hold on, like I have letters from people that aren't here anymore, and it's really special. I have to say, it's like, and same with audio. That's why, like, so to give a little background with the podcast is I was just feeling very directionless. And for me, I have to ask myself strange questions to like figure out what I want. And it was like, if you had 1 year to live, what would you do? Because I felt like my list of like, I want to do all these things, all these creative things. And I was like, if you had 1 year, what would you do? Would you care about playing live? I was like, no. But it was like, I would want to record conversations with people I love And I would want to finish, like, I'd be less precious with my songs, and I would just get them out there. And so for me, a lot of it is like these little time capsules. Visitor Records is all about when we pass, the things we've created, that will be proof that we once existed. They will be our visitor records. So for me, it was like, if I had 1 year to live, I would have these conversations with people I care about. And so letter writing to me is also really important. When people pass, it's really beautiful to have something of their that they've written, or to have, like, I have audio of my Bubba, and it's just beautiful to hear her voice. So a little tangent, but yeah.
That's wonderful. There's something special about physical things because so much is digital.
Mm-hmm.
My husband laughs at me, but we're looking at buying an older truck right now. And my first question I always ask if he's found one he's looking at online is, does it have a tape player?
Oh, yes.
I desperately want the physicality of that. Now, tapes aren't the best quality, but still it's so fun. And just like letter writing, you can hold it in your hands. It's physical proof. Remember when we used to go get photos developed?
Yep.
Now, some of you listening may not know what we're talking about.
I'm not sure if that generation is going to listen to us.
Who knows? But they would have envelopes at that location. You'd drop this little roll of film in, and it had like a pre-weird sticky thing on it. You'd fold that over and you'd fill out some information like your name and like what kind of prints you wanted. Did you want glossy or matte? And did you want duplicates or not? Were you going to share these photos with your friends? This is a whole load of things that some people never experience, but the physicality of it, and also, topic for another time, having to wait for things.
Oh, yeah.
Creates something magical.
I agree. Which another podcast is the 2 Marshmallow Experiment, which is all about delayed gratification. But yeah, when you were talking about tapes, it's like, oh man, just the nostalgia. I was even texting my middle brother, and I was like, I will always have the best memories of you in your room. He listened to a lot of old school hip hop, and I would hear him playing it, rewinding it, playing it, rewinding it, and he was writing down all the lyrics. Because there were some songs that didn't even have like the lyrics in the sleeve. And I was just like, that's just such a cool, that's how we spent our time. Like, that's what we spent after school, after homework, after whatever we had to do. CD mixes and tape mixes, they are a love language. Or the notes that your friends would pass. Come on.
Yes. Oh, like squeezing my fists in excitement. And yes, tape mixes. I love it.
So I think for my relationships goal, maybe it's even just part of the podcast. How do I kind of time capsule these beautiful moments of our relationships? Because I love my friends. The friends I have in my life now are like the coolest people, kindest people, most interesting. And I just want to like sit and record our conversations. And maybe someone will listen and be like, cool. And if not, no one's not forcing anyone to listen. But yeah.
I'm here for it. I'm into it.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. I'll do finances real quick. So my husband and I started doing this last year, and then we kind of like lost interest and didn't do it. And then when we came to the end of the year, we were like, we wish we would have kept doing this. So we are going to track our spending weekly so that we're not surprised at where the money is going. It is like, I don't know if you use a credit card, but we use a credit card so that we get points and then we pay the credit card off. That makes it so that you're not, it's a little too easy. The bottom line is it's a little too easy to spend with a credit card because you know you're not most likely going to go over your limit. What I did when we were first married 20 years ago, I would pay for everything with a debit card, which is, we know now, a bad idea because of identity theft. But I would pay for things with a debit card, and then I would write them down in my checkbook. I would write down everything to the penny. But I never spent more than I had in my account, and I always would stop and pause before I made a purchase. So now, with everything being online, another option is to like go to a cash system, but it doesn't seem reasonable now that everything is online. So the best we can come up with is every Saturday morning, we make some waffles and we get our spreadsheets out and we check our Amazon account and figure out what categories those purchases go into. We check our credit card account, figure out where those purchases go. And we have goals for each category of purchasing, like X number of dollars for food, X number of dollars for gifts, clothes, utilities, etc. And we see where we're going over consistently and go from there. And I have to tell you, like every month we're over, not by a ton and not in every category. Some categories we'll spend anything, but with all of his health issues, our health column was always outrageously high. Anyway, so my financial goal is to track spending weekly so we're not surprised where the money's going. And also look for ways to save. Everything's more expensive right now. Everybody knows that. So just, making sure, is this product necessary? Asking myself the question before I buy it. Is this a nice to have or do I need to have it? And could I wait longer and find it cheaper, or could I go to a different store and find a better deal? Doing a little research on different things I'm going to use a lot of and find the most economical version of those. You end up going to a couple different stores that way, but I do think it can be worth it. So that's my financial goal. Do you have any?
I like that a lot. I was just writing down that nice to have versus need to have, because it's so simple and I've heard it before, but it's just like a good reminder, especially in times when everyone feels crunched. I think mine would be, I think we need to do a family budget. I have my own, but then we do like a family and save where we can't. Just be wise stewards of our money.
I think it can be really powerful to save strategically. I'll tell you something I just started doing. So I have a day job and I also have some side gigs, and I decided I'm opening up a money market account, and any money that I make through a side gig is going to go there. Because I know that if I just put it in my regular account, the way I pay bills is, how much money can I throw at the credit card? Okay. And so I just knew that any money I made on a side gig was going to go straight to the extra on the credit card, which is a whole other problem we need to solve. But I decided to open this money market, put any gig money in there. Then I will feel it later. It's going to add up eventually, and I will be like, wow, look at what I saved from the extra work that I did, and I want to see it build. And I don't know, I just think having little, like, squirreling away money in places you're not looking at all the time can be really good. I support that. It's a whole different company that owns the money market account than where I do my daily banking. If I could see it all at once and together, and I could just, transfer this money here or there, it's too easy, it kind of defeats the purpose. So you have to figure out what works for you in that realm. And then I don't know if you'll agree with this, Lex, but if anybody listening is like, I need help with money and I don't know where to start, I like Dave Ramsey. He can be a really good resource for people that are like buried in debt, don't know what to do.
Highly recommend. He just gives really practical and logical solutions for getting out of debt, such as either paying off the loan that's the lowest amount to kind of give you that boost of like, look, I did it, or to pay off the one with the highest interest. I also agree with your idea on the money market. I did that last year, but I love the idea of automation. I hear like, just automate. If it's in my checking, then I think it's there to spend. So I have to do like the squirrel and hide my things in different areas. I even have an app called Capital, Qapital, where you can set rules where it's like set it and forget it, $20 a month come from your checking into like their little savings. It was free when I signed up, so I think I got grandfathered in, but I don't know if there's like a monthly fee, but I do like it. It's what helped me save for my Europe trip. I rounded up every single time I swiped my debit card, I would round up to the nearest $2. And so it would just, and you can switch out. I have a Charlie, like I don't have pet insurance for Charlie. Instead, I was like, I'll just put $25 a week into his Charlie fund. And so Charlie has a little savings account that when I need to go to the vet, I can either pull it from my own checking, or if I'm like, oh, I'll take it from Charlie's fund. Charlie's paying today. Pet insurance sounds great, but he's a young pup, so I don't expect any big medical expenses for him. So I'm trying to save up till he hits like 5,000 in his little savings, and then I'll probably just pause it. Because otherwise I'm paying for insurance that he's probably not going to use very much of. And I was like, I'll just save it on my own. Instead of giving them $100 a month to maybe use, I'm going to give Charlie $100 a month.
You're kind of blowing my mind right now.
I have a couple hacks, a couple life hacks.
Killer. And also, if you don't know and you have the ability to get an HSA, that's a health savings account, over and over again, I'm hearing that is absolutely like the best way to save money because it's tax-free. And some people, did you know this? Like some people say that you should, max out the HSA every year and then not use it.
Yeah, they say that it's just tax-free money. And so you can even roll it into a Roth, I think, at some point and stuff like that.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
There are 2 categories left, self-development and career. Which one should we go over first?
Let's do career and end on a nice self-development, because I feel like all my actual resolutions are self-development ones.
I had a big chunk in that one too. Do you want me to start with career or do you want to start?
You can start.
Okay. So I work a 9-to-5 corporate job that most days I love and I'm super thankful for. I have found that I loved it too much. So my goal for this year is to, quote, find significant identity outside of my day job.
Oh, okay. Teach. That's what I feel like I want to pause and let people soak that in, because that's a big one in general for people.
As far as how to do that, I'm not sure yet. I just know that it kind of pairs up with the second one, which is work less, no Saturdays. I got to cut the Saturdays out. It's not required of me to work Saturdays, but sometimes I just do it. So cutting that out is going to give me more time for the things that I love.
I love that, boundaries.
I am not one of those people that's good at this, obviously, because it's a goal, and how old am I? I'm not going to say. I'm old enough that I should have figured this out already, but yeah, I've got to figure it out.
May I add something to that? It's wild for me to hear you say, find identity like outside of your 9-to-5, because when I look at you, I'm like, but you have like, it's not like you're like, oh, this is all you do, and then you sit on the couch eating potato chips and watching Netflix. No judgment if that is someone's life. But you are like a highly layered, deeply layered person with so many skills. So it's wild for me to be like, oh, but it's obvious to me that your identity is not just this one role. It's like, but you're a producer, a creator, a maker, and like a developer of people and systems around you.
That is so kind.
Does that make sense?
Thank you so much for saying that. It's weird because I'm thinking like I'm an independent filmmaker and I'm also a painter and I am like a lover of self-improvement and health and how eating can directly affect everything in your life. So those are my main things. But now I'll jump back into the third career goal. I want to listen to books about hostage negotiators. I'm like super interested in that topic. Even to the point where I wondered at one point, like, would I like to do that? Is that something I could do?
You'd actually be probably great at it.
I don't know. I think oddly, and I don't like to think anybody can age out of anything, but it does seem like I would not be able to pursue that unless something changes, because you have to get, I think if this is right, if anybody knows that I'm wrong, let us know. I think you have to join the FBI. And I think in order to join the FBI, that's like a certain age range. I'm just like outside of that. And then from there, I think you can become a hostage negotiator. But that's not the only thing they do. And sometimes they're police officers, so I could still do that. But I don't think that's... Anyway, I just want to learn more about it. I think ultimately I'm interested in the idea of how humans can be manipulated and influenced. Okay, so that's one.
I love that.
So I paint, and I want to this year paint something taller than myself.
Cool. And you're tall.
5'8". It's going to be at least a 6-foot tall painting. I want to investigate new outlets for my paintings. I feel like, my social media is the only place I ever try to show anybody anything. And that's super limited.
What is your social media?
Well, my artist website is KatiLightholderArt.com. And that's Katie spelled Kati. There's no E in my name. But yeah, on social media, so on Instagram, I'm Kati Lightholder Art. Again, Katie with an I, no E. So I want to investigate new outlets for my paintings. I don't know what that means, but I'm going to keep my eyes open. My husband and I also produced a pilot episode right before COVID started, and it was kind of a travel-oriented show, which, add that to COVID is just a little disaster. So we were not able to get that off the ground at that time, but we want to submit that to some film festivals this year. And then I do have an extreme interest in how the food that we eat can affect our well-being, because I've had some drastic changes in my health based on changing my diet. So I've been forever toying with an idea of a YouTube channel. I don't know that the time for that is now, but I'm going to keep thinking about it and keep learning. So like my goal is not to start a YouTube channel this year. It's more to just keep it in mind and think about it. So isn't that nice? Did you know you could give yourself a goal to just casually think about something?
Heck yeah. I support.
Thanks.
I think about a lot of my goals and don't action them.
Yeah, so those are my career goals. Do you have any?
Again, I didn't write any down, but it'd be focused on music, but I'm not setting any like hard and fast. Like last year, I released an album. It's called The Return. You can find it on your favorite music sites. But I released an album last year, and this year I don't have that goal of like release a specific album, but I am working on new songs. And I'm not going to rush myself. Last year I was trying that whole method of like releasing one single every 6 weeks. I want to create when I want to create it, but I don't have a lot of it fleshed out yet. It's not like in a SMART for people who might be or might not be aware of a SMART goal. A SMART goal is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So to your question, do I have a career goal? The career goals I have aren't fitting into like a SMART goal, but it's more just keep writing. Something you said earlier at the very beginning when you were talking about your fitness goal of just once a week. My life coach, when we started, she said, make them small. And I'm this person that's like, oh, I haven't been running for a while. I'm going to run 4 times a week. And it's like, no. Just do one. And then you build that muscle because you're like, I can do one. And then as you start seeing yourself do once a week, you build that confidence. And then you can say like, okay, let's bump it up to twice a week. So on the note of career goals with music, I would say just building that muscle. My friend and I have started writing together. That was a big thing. I wanted to get out of my comfort zone to see if I could write with someone and see how that process goes, but do it with someone safe. That's not going to be like, oh my gosh, you're awful at this or making me feel too bad. So my friend Eric and I, the last 3 Sundays, we just have these like little studio Sundays, and he comes over and we work on music, and I'm really enjoying it. And it's helping that muscle, just like working out. If you haven't worked out in a while, you have to build up those muscles, and it's building that songwriting muscle. Another physics principle is like an object in motion stays in motion. One of my friends says, keep it moving. And I love that. It's just like, just keep it moving. It doesn't have to be a profound levels of movement. Just keep it moving.
I have 1,000 thoughts on this. I'm trying to reel it in. So I used to be a personal organizer, as you know, and I would help people organize their physical spaces and also their mental places, I would call it. And something that really helped a lot of my clients was to make micro steps. We would make them little planning boards. It could be like it's like a corrugated plastic board that you could tape little pieces of cardboard to, and you write on the piece of their cardstock. And so we would write micro steps down so that you could pluck a card off of the board and read it and go do it. And it would always start with a verb. And you could go, it was small enough that you could go do it in under 5 minutes, actually. And that not everybody needs that, but some people are paralyzed until they do something like that. And it can be really powerful. If you have any drops of ADHD in your system, like so many of us do, that can really help you focus. Now, the hardest part is sitting down to write the board. If you have a personal organizer sitting down with you, you're focused. You get an hour with them and that's it, and you want to get this all done. But when you're saying a body in motion stays in motion, those micro movements can help you achieve that if that's your personality type.
I love that. Yeah.
This is fun.
I think it's really fun. I think a lot of my goals at this point in my life are coupled with grace, a lot more grace than I gave myself probably in my 20s. And it feels really nice. I think in your 20s, at least for me, it can feel like hit the ground running, and society really makes, oh my gosh, these young people think they should be accomplishing. It's so crazy what my friends and I put on our like 30 before 30 list. I'm like, what delusion, like cute levels of delusion, well-intentioned ideas did you have? But it wasn't because I was delusional. It's because society really had this message of like, oh, your 20s are everything. I'm around a couple young people these days, and hearing them, I thought I'd be at this place by now. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're 23 years old though. And I'm like, oh, I probably did the same. And thinking that your life's like over at 40, I'm like, oh my goodness. So I will say my goals now have a lot more grace. I've coupled with that, like, if you had 1 year to live, like what would I want to focus on? And then I also said, what if you knew that you were going to live into long years, 80 some, and I was like, what would you do? I was like, oh, I'd rest. And I was like, oh my gosh. So these are my priorities if I had 1 year to live. And if God were like, no, you've got long life, I'd actually rest and have a bit more grace on myself. And I was like, okay, so how can I balance that now? So I think a lot of my goals now are a little bit more balanced, and it feels nice. I'm like, oh my gosh, therapy, are you working? Like,
my mind is blown. I have heard these things come out of your mouth before, but being reminded of them, my mind is just blown.
The other note, because I actually wrote it down as one of my resolutions, is don't let the math confuse you. I heard that Pastor Stephen Furtick mention it, actually. He was like, don't let the math confuse you. Meaning if you're like, but I'm this age, or like, but on paper it doesn't look like I can afford it, but like for those numeric brains like mine, I remember my mom said, yeah, on paper it never looked like we could afford for me to stay home not working and your dad to take care of a family of 5, but we made it work. It's like, don't let the math confuse you. Like, well, I don't know, I'm 65, I don't know if I can start. My mom started a new career and moved across the country at, I think, 60. So don't let the math confuse you.
We could have a whole episode just about how inspiring both of our mothers are. Oh my goodness. Yes. My mother had a high school education and work experience because my parents had their own business. But she got in at a very good corporation in the city, only having a high school degree, and all of her colleagues were college educated, and she just worked her butt off and worked her way up and had an amazing career. And
I love that.
She started that amazing career at, Mom, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, I want to say 42. High school only, raised a family, did some, we had a family business, and she ran that. And then she jumped into the corporate world in her 40s.
What if they let themselves get distracted by the math? What if they let society norms or pressures kind of say, that's not a woman's place, or you can't do that, or your age? Yeah, and I think that would maybe be a goal of to watch the limitations, right? To watch how I limit myself and to not let other elements, outside forces try to limit, yeah, we really can limit ourselves.
Yeah, man, it's interesting. I love what you're saying. I've never heard that before. Don't let the numbers confuse you. I love that. That is, I'm gonna write that down. Should we hit the last one?
Yeah.
Self-development. Number 1, slow down and listen more fully, just to everybody everywhere. Number 2, be okay with things that are a little bit of an inconvenience. I tend to be fast-paced. I tend to want things to be fully efficient, but I want to slow down and I want to be okay if things are just a little bit inconvenient. I want to look for the positive or the complimentary everywhere. When I look down the street, I don't want to see something that I want to complain about. I want to see something that I compliment. And that's all mindset shift stuff, in my opinion. I could look into the other room and go, oh, the curtain is messed up. Those curtains need iron. That's a bummer. That's not a fun task. Or I could look in the other room and go, we chose such a beautiful paint color. I love that color of blue. Like, it's just a mindset shift. And that's who I want to be. And that's who I'd want to be around as well. And I think that you do a great job of that, Lex.
Oh, I think you do a great job of that. You actually inspire me to be more positive. But yeah.
No, that's kind. Thank you.
I mean, there's always more that we could find positive.
It is endless, and it's so awesome that it is, because that sends your brain in such a good positive spiral as opposed to the negative. Hashtag neuroplasticity, hashtag another episode.
Yep.
Okay, number 4.
Yes.
Number 4, I want to work toward complaining 2 times or less per day. Boy, is that
I mean, that's on my list.
a
is
challenge.
Slow the complaining.
I started trying this toward the end of the year, and I would find myself pointing out to Blake, like, here's complaint number 1 for the day, and I get one more, and then I just, you just go from there. But complaining is super powerful. It all ties into neuroplasticity and how, like, a body in motion stays in motion. Also, a brain in a negative spiral continues to spiral and becomes stronger in the negative direction. And that's the opposite of what I want to be. I just want to look for the positive and complimentary everywhere. And the last few are, I want to lean into the joy of cooking and baking. I find myself with the diet I am holding, I have to do a lot of that myself. And I just want to I'm just going to find the joy in it and just lean into it. And that's okay. Because I used to hate cooking. And now I'm like, let's learn to love it. Let's learn to love it. 3 more. 2 of these are related. So I want to start growing some of my own food. And I don't know if I would call what I'm going to do a garden or not, but I've got some basil. So that's what was started, and in a pot in my house with a grow light. And then I'm hoping to do a couple other plants on my porch. And I want to grow, I want to get into that, and I want to start composting. I could see that being something I try and dislike and stop doing. We're going to give it a shot. Yeah. And then I want to learn about homesteading. Not that I don't think I'll ever become a homesteader, but I think I would enjoy learning about it. I found a cool YouTube channel that I'm going to start watching more of. And then this is the last one, and it's the least important, but perhaps the most important. I want to purposefully style my hair more often.
Ooh, okay, I like that.
I find that, my hair can look fun if I curl it or if I do different things, and I never do it. I mean, I do it enough so it's presentable, but I don't ever take the care to do it more, and I want to do that.
Oh, I love that. I think that's really fun. And why not? Why not?
You could dissect that and go, that adds to your confidence, which changes how you walk and how you feel and how you interact and all that. But yeah, and that, my friend, is it for me.
Oh,
how about you?
Those are all good.
Thank you.
Those are all good. I have the slow the complaining, and I put replace with gratitude. And I noted what you said, look for the complimentary, which made me also think of you as a painter in complementary colors, right? Katie makes these paintings that are like, they have wisdom behind them. I'm always interested in the stuff that explores the human condition and experience, and I feel like that's what your paintings do. They're like these beautiful pieces of art that also have a very human element, but I'm just like, oh, look for the complementary. I'm like, there's a Kati Lightholder painting in there.
Oh, well, first of all, that's so nice. Thank you. And I'll just say, The first painting I did, I just did it because like I just felt like I wanted to, and it's not a thing that I had really explored, but and it's something I've kept doing because people seem to like it and I like doing it. Sometimes it's super stressful, but my first painting is called Rest on the Green Ledge. And it's all about, like, it's an abstract painting. It has some bright pinks and blues. But the whole idea is, so it's abstract and there's some, lots of texture in it. And the idea is all the textures you're seeing, it's the craziness and the chaos of life. And I should write in that description, it's also the beauty of life, because part of the beauty of life is that it's varied. And then there's a green ledge. There's a line. There's a line in the painting that's a green line. And the idea is that when you're looking at the painting and you feel like it's too chaotic, you can mentally go sit on that green ledge and you can just sit there and you can relax. Now, that's a bit of an abstract idea. That might not resonate with everybody. But for those that it does resonate with, it's a nice place to mentally focus on and go to and be like, I'm just going to sit here for a minute, and give yourself permission and a location to do so until you're ready to jump back in to the world. So that's an example of my paintings. Thanks for the shout out, Lex.
When you said look for the complementary, that does just give me such a visual. Look for the complementary, like I want to replace the complaining, interrupt it. And you have to replace it. That whole like, don't think of a pink elephant. What are you thinking of? A pink elephant. So instead you have to replace it. So replacing it with gratitude, which I absolutely agree with you. It just shifts. I remember in a therapy session at one point just being like, wow, it's all about perception, isn't it? And yes, there are very real truths and there is a reality, events that happen in our lives. And it's not to wash over those and pretend they didn't happen, because that's also delusion, right? But perspective on it. Radical acceptance, which I did not understand this, but I learned about it from a video by Dr. Ramani, who talks about narcissism. And she talks about the grief that people with maybe someone narcissistic in their life, the grief that they will have to go through. The thing that keeps them kind of stuck is this hope that the person will change, and realizing that they won't. And you have to kind of you have to grieve and get to a place of radical acceptance of like, yes, everyone can change. Narcissists tend not to. But this idea of radical acceptance for me also branches off into the let them theory. It's the idea of just let them. Like if you're like, oh, like this person cut me off in traffic, let them. I feel like this person's making a bad decision with who they're dating, or a bad decision with this choice. Let them. Let them learn at their own pace. Let them do that. And like she also says, you balance that with like, let me, and she does give these stipulations of like, no, you don't let people cross your boundaries. You don't let someone abuse you. No, you don't let people do that stuff. That's boundary crossing. But stop over functioning for other people, which can be hard, especially in like certain relationships, right? Because some people's decisions will affect you. But that's the let me. That's where you can determine how you let it affect you. It leads you to a more surrendered, more liberated place. And I'm like, oop, that touches my freedom value. Like, there is freedom in that, to let go. And I don't think of myself as a controlling type, but I do see that because I have gone through numerous experiences myself. If I see someone in a similar situation, because I am like an advocate at heart, I worked as a teen advocate. There's part of me that's like, oh, I want to like offer this thing that helped me. But I have to remember when I was an advocate, a massive part of it was kind of the let them. We were told we don't give advice to our youth because it's not empowering. Because if you give them good advice and they take it, they can't even take credit for it because you gave them that advice. So that doesn't build their confidence. If you give them bad advice and they take it, they'll blame you, as they maybe should. So instead, you want to ask questions. So with let them, because I am like an advocate at heart that's hard for me to separate from. How can I do the let them, but maybe just ask more questions? I think maybe that's one of my self-development goals would be, I have like a coaching book, because I do really care about people and I deeply want to encourage them, but like how can I do that without maybe suggesting as much? And there's different relationships, right? Like you and I feel like we have a relationship where I'm like, no, please, I want you to speak into my life. I value you. I respect you. I respect how you navigate the world. Please speak into my life. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That's huge. That's like life-changing for, depending on people's circumstances, that could be life-changing.
Yeah, it's been helpful for me when I feel like if someone's a bit like kind of snarky or, they react in a way you're like, oof, well, that didn't really feel good. All right, let them, but I might choose to not be around that as much.
Absolutely. I mean, that directly correlates with the 4 Agreements book. I'll read them here. 1, be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions. Those 2 are what are reminding me directly of what you just talked about. And always do your best. So don't take anything personally. And when you realize that any like shade somebody throws at you is more about themselves than it is about you.
Oh, I really like that. The beginning of every year, I ask God to give me a word for the year that I feel like God wants me to kind of thematically meditate on, think on. And I feel like I got the word filter. I'm like, what do you mean filter? And so as I thought about it, all sorts of things came up for me. We've talked about refining, right? When you feel like God is refining you. Well, when you're refining gold or silver, you have to filter out the dross, all the crud. And so filtering is to remove impurities, removing what you don't want, filtering out things you don't need. You can even think of it within your home. I do like to periodically go through my belongings and get rid of things, donate things, sell things, give things away. But to filter out things you don't need, to filter with my speech, to learn when to filter myself, when I let them, when I don't need to insert my opinion. As the Stoics say, practice having no opinion. I'm like, okay, trying Marcus Aurelius, I'm trying. And learning when to not filter myself, because I also feel like in my life, people have tried to silence me when maybe there's something to be spoken. So when to filter my speech, when not to, how to filter out the words of others if they do not line up with what my God says about me, and my God is the God of love, also a Jesus follower, but also admit we have a PR problem. But for me, God is love, and there are 2 frequencies, love and fear. Science is showing this too. You cannot be operating on the same frequency, can't be operating on the frequency of fear while operating on the frequency of love. They compete, which, as a music artist, filters in music, you filter out certain frequencies. And I think that's the one I'm like, oof, filtering out the frequency of complaining, grumbling, negativity for myself. And when others are, I am recognizing I'm so sensitive. I've got like a grumbler or 2 in my life where I'm like, I can't field all, like, why am I getting anxious now? And it's just like, oh, I'm having a hard time when it's not someone venting about something that they're really having a hard time with. It's just grumble. I'm like, let's filter out these frequencies.
Oh my goodness. This is the first time I'm hearing this word and I am blown away.
It's pretty cool. I shared it with my mom last night. I was like, I really like it. This feels like the reminders I need. Now I have to engage, it's not just like, here's your word, da-da. It's like, no, I have to action these.
Now's the hard part.
I can ignore all this, or I have to action it. Do you do that with the word?
I do, and I have one, but I feel like it's not anywhere near as insightful as yours.
No, if it's your word, it's your word.
It's a hyphenated word, and the word is lighthearted.
Oof. That is powerful.
Well, thank you. I feel like with the health stuff that's been going on in my family, and it's not just my husband, it's all kinds of family members having all kinds of life-threatening health stuff. I mean, I haven't been lighthearted in a long time. And I actually put a little Post-it on my refrigerator that says, do something lighthearted every day. And I haven't gotten there yet, but even if it's just like listening to a song like Disco Snail, and if you haven't heard it, check it out. My gosh, that'll get you into a lighthearted mood.
Yes.
But like, I consider myself like at my core to be somebody who really values humor and fun and funny and weird and goofy. When I was pursuing acting, the acting I liked the most was funny, like comedy type stuff. Dramas, no thanks. I could do it. It's not a matter that I can't do it. It's just I don't want to do it. I don't want to conjure up those feelings. I'd rather do something funny at any time. So I'm like recognizing that I feel like I've had to set that aside because life has been serious for years now. And I'm just, looking forward to trying to figure out what that means for me, here with my 4,000 goals.
But they make sense. I actually don't think it's like such a wild number of goals. They do really go together. And knowing you will do them.
Well, I'll delete them if I don't. And that's the joy of it, because you can just do that for yourself. That's a great question. I'm so glad you brought that up about the word.
I think lighthearted is perfect. I love that the word light is also in your married name. When I think of the word lighthearted, you keep your heart light. It is not weighed down. It is not burdened.
Jumping into like a spiritual direction, there could be some great conversations had about, all that heaviness, kind of giving that up. Super abstract, of course, but worthy of thought.
I love that. To me, it definitely sounds like a God word, like a God-given word. There's a question that I always want to ask at the end. If someone, God or someone or whatever, could tell you when and how you would die, what do you want to know?
That's a great question. My answer is no, because I feel like it's unnatural. I feel like we don't get to know perhaps on purpose, because I think it would change things. And maybe the way that changes things would not be for the better. But yeah, mine is a definite no. Are you willing to answer? Okay.
Yeah, I'm in the no camp, but I like to ask this question because every now and then someone says yes, and I like to hear their reasoning why. And I don't want to say too much. I want other people to kind of make their own, draw their own conclusions from it. But the way people answer, whether yes or no, there's intentionality behind it, even though their answers are different. But for me, I would just get in my head probably. And so instead I ask my questions. What if you had 1 year to live? And what if you had many years to live? What would I adjust in my priorities? And how would I adjust my focus now? So, yeah.
Those two questions in combination of the 1 year and the very, very long life are just so interesting. That's all I'll say.
I'm glad you like them. They really helped bring me peace one day. I was like, oh my gosh, this is just what I have to do periodically. Yeah. But thanks so much for initiating this and for walking us through some resolutions. Thanks for visiting.
Thank you for having me.